Welcome back. This story is called The Three Types of Cho Mos. If you don't know what a Cho Mo is a child molester. It should be a Chi-Mo, but it's not, it's a Cho Mo. How do I know about the three types of Cho Mos? Well, when I was in the Seminole County Jail, I asked to be put into protective custody because I had heard that protective custody is the safest place to be in the Seminole County Jail. What I didn't know about protective custody was that 90% of the guys in there were either rapists or child molesters. That's why they needed protective custody, because they could get their asses kicked if people knew who they were. But everyone knew that we were the Cho Mos, the child molesters were in this one wing. I call it the Cho Mo wing. And during the 10 months that I spent there, which is a long time, I learned that there are three types of Cho Mos, and I'm going to tell you what they are right now. The first type is the guy who has child pornography, either stills or video, on his computer, on his hard drive. And my roommate, my cellmate, a guy named Chris, early 20s, told me that he was one of those guys. That's why he was in jail. And he explained to me how it works. He said that when you're downloading child porn videos, where you get these videos, I don't know. I mean, I've heard of something called the dark web. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the dark web, but anyway, he said it is a peer-to-peer sharing format. Do you remember Napster? When people could go online and type in their favorite song, and then you'd see somebody else's hard drive, what songs they had, and you could download a song from theirs to onto your hard drive. Same thing, okay? He would go online, he'd see a video that he liked on somebody else's computer, and then download it onto his. And when you're downloading one of these videos, like with Napster, there's a bar that shows you what percentage of the video has been downloaded, okay? Chris explained all this to me. He said that if you stop the download before it gets to 100%, you're fine. You can watch the video, you can watch 90% or 95% of the video, and you're fine. You're not going to get in trouble. However, he told me that every video, every child porn video that exists has been tagged by the FBI. And if you are a guy who's downloading one of these videos and you download 100%, you download the entire video, it immediately sends an alert to the FBI. And he said that's what happened to him. He was downloading a video, child pornography video. He wasn't paying attention. He looked away. He wasn't watching the screen. Downloaded to 100%. That night, his house got raided by SWAT. They came in, guns, the whole SWAT unit, dragged him out of bed, held his mother at gunpoint, and took him away. That's one type of Cho Mo, the guys that have videos or stills on their computer. There was another guy, same situation. He was an older guy. He was like in his 30s. He had glasses, bald head, really nice guy. He told me this whole story, that he was an incest survivor. He told me all about this incest. He had incest when he was 5 years old. His 9-year-old sister started molesting him, and then they had a younger sister, and she got involved, and this happened throughout his whole life. It had nothing to do with being a Cho Mo. And then when he had a daughter, he molested her. I mean, he's telling me this story until she was like 21, and then she had a daughter, like a granddaughter, and he wrote her an email to his daughter saying, do you want your granddaughter or your child to be, the same thing that you went through? And she said no. Thankfully, somebody in that family had enough sense to say no. Anyway, he's got this whole long story. It's got nothing to do with child molesting. He was on a Facebook page for Florida incest survivors. There was a undercover cop who was also on the same page, and they started corresponding. And this undercover cop asked him to send him a website, a link for child porn. And he kept asking him over and over again. And finally, this guy agreed and sent him one text with a link to some Russian website that had child porn. Sure enough, the next day, he was raided. He was in his office and he got arrested, and that's why he was in jail. He got 36 years. That guy got 36 years for that. Can you believe that? 36 years. He was a federal prisoner. There were federal prisoners and state prisoners. Federal prisoners are the ones that have crossed state lines. So anything electronic is considered state lines. The feds do not plea bargain. The feds will tell you how many years you're going to get. Either you take it or you go to trial. No plea bargain. So he went to the court. 36 years they gave this guy. That's one type of Cho Mo. The second type is the one who actually has sex with somebody under the age of 18. So we're talking about grown men here having sex with girls and boys under the age of 18. There was this one guy there in jail named Steven, fat, red hair, pimples, greasy guy, who would talk about how he knew all the places in Orlando to pick up, gay sex. You go to a certain parking lot, you're going to meet a guy, whatever. He was very proud of himself. He knew all these places to go. This guy, Steven, I heard, had sex in his car with a 13-year-old boy. We're talking about a 20, 25-year-old man in a car having sex with a 13-year-old boy. Okay, that's pretty bad. There was another guy there who was a big Bible thumper. Once you get into jail, you get access to all this study materials for Bible study. And everyone in there, except me and Chris, were the only ones that didn't go. Every week they went to Bible study with the chaplain. And they bring home all these books, like all these study guides, including a Bible, but all kinds of books. And this guy, I can't remember his name, he would always have his books out, He was always studying, his Bible study. And I heard from a friend that this guy had an affair with his 17-year-old stepdaughter, had sex with her, and told the stepdaughter that he was going to divorce her mother and marry her. And he eventually got himself arrested and was in prison for that. But this guy was, like I said, he was the biggest Bible thumper. One more child molester, a guy named Chris, another Chris. This guy was 21, 22 years old, and he was in jail because he had molested his 8-year-old stepsister, his mother's daughter from another husband, another father, 25 times. And every time he molested her, he took photographs on his phone. So when the cops came and got him, what happened was he went to his mother. He confessed. He said, I've been having molesting, my half-sister. The mother sent him to a therapist, like a mental health therapist. When he told the therapist that story, she immediately called the cops because the therapists are mandated reporters. That's how he got in jail. And he couldn't talk to his mother because his mother was a witness because he confessed it to her. So this guy was basically on his own. And like I said, he'd taken all these pictures. And Chris, my roommate Chris, heard more about it. And he told me there was one picture where you see the girl's face and you see the guy's penis like resting on her face, an 8-year-old girl. I don't know how many years that guy got. I was gone before he was sentenced. I'm sure he got himself a handful of years. At one point, they had a library cart. They brought around books. And this guy, the same guy who had sex with or molested his 8-year-old stepsister, found a book, a paperback book called Black Beauty, which is a book about a little girl and a horse. And he took that book, and I saw him do it, and he hid it under his shirt so nobody would see that he had it, and he rushed back to his cell. I'm like, you little perv. All you want to do is read about 8-year-old girls. So that's the second kind. The kind of guy who has sex with somebody who's underage. The third kind of chomo, these are the stupidest guys in the Seminole County Jail. These are guys who were lured by emails or texts created by the police as bait. For example, there's one guy who told me that there were these ads or these posts, I don't know where they were. It wasn't Craigslist, it was some other site that came from a 15-year-old girl, and they were supposed to be from her uncle. Her uncle was pimping her out. That's what was going on. Her uncle was reaching out to men who wanted to have sex with a 15-year-old girl and said, meet me, we'll set this up. It was a lie. It was the police. I mean, it was a setup. So this one guy said that he went and they had to meet at the Lake Mary rest stop on I-4. That's where this went down. So if you're on I-4 and you see that Lake Mary rest stop, you'll know that's the place where they get these guys. So one guy said that he went there to this place and he said that he had no intention to this rest stop. He had no intention of actually having sex with a 15-year-old. He said his intention was he was going to beat up the uncle and rescue this girl. Right? That's what he said. He said he had a stick in his car, like a billy club. He was going to beat up the uncle and save the girl. I'm like, great. Tell that to the judge. There was another guy that did the same thing. This guy lived in Arkansas, and he was communicating with some girl in Florida. This guy was a former NASCAR driver, and he drove all the way from Arkansas to Lake Mary, like one straight shot to meet this girl. And guess what? It was the cops. And he was in jail with us, and they actually made it into the newspaper because he was well known, not well known, but he was somewhat known as a NASCAR driver. He only stayed for about 3 days. He got somebody in Arkansas pulled strings and got him transferred, but he still had to face, the music. And that, my friend, is the 3 types of chomos. Don't forget to read my book, Broccoli Time by Dante Allen, available now on Amazon Books.